Good evening and welcome to tonight's candidate forum sponsored by the Chelmsford Business Association. There are 3 candidates vying for 2 seats on the select board. Tonight we'll be asking these candidates poignant questions on some of the economic and social issues facing our town. We hope you find these responses helpful, especially when you head to the polls in April. Just a few words before we begin. The Chelmsford Business Association, better known as the CBA, was founded in 1990. Our primary mission is to advocate a flat tax rate for both commercial and residential property owners. Besides taxation, the association understands the importance of being a good corporate citizen. We support local nonprofit organizations like the Merrimack Valley Food Bank and the Table of Plenty. We also sponsor community events like the 4th of July Parade and the holiday tree lighting. And finally, we provide high school seniors with college scholarships. The CBA currently represents over 200 members, most of which are local small business owners. If you would like to learn more about the CBA or are interested in becoming a member, please visit our website at chelmsfordbusiness.org, or you can call us directly at 978-250-3858. On behalf of the association, I want to thank the Chelmsford Police Department for hosting tonight's event, Chelmsford Telemedia, as well as the select board candidates for their participation. I also want to thank the members of the event committee, Amanda Lucia, Doug Hausler, Jeff Hardy, and Jim Cullen for their time and effort in making this event possible. Without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's moderator, Amanda Lucia.
Thank you for the introduction, Tom. Good evening, everyone, and a special welcome to our candidates. Thank you all for being here tonight. Each candidate will have up to 1 minute to respond to each question. Candidates will be asked questions that were prepared in advance by the Candidates Night Committee, as well as the opportunity to ask 1 question to their fellow candidates. At the end of tonight's program, each candidate will be allowed to make a closing statement that is not to exceed 1 minute. As moderator, the Candidates Night Committee allows me to interrupt a candidate if the answer by that candidate is construed as non-responsive or needs clarification. And now let's introduce the candidates tonight. Our first candidate is Virginia Crocker Timmons. Virginia and her husband Mark moved to Chelmsford 25 years ago from Western Massachusetts. Their son, Josh, is a student at Northeastern University. Virginia is active in Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce and a member of the Lowell Transitional Living Center Board of Directors. She has 35 years of experience in a large company form, entrepreneurial, turnaround, and nonprofit environments. Virginia worked in the defense industry for 28 years, including 22 years in middle and executive management positions. She is currently a certified business coach. Virginia holds electrical engineering bachelor's and master's degrees from Union College and Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. She is completing her first term on the select board and is a town meeting representative and was a member of the Route 40 Study Committee. Virginia remains committed to increasing outreach, inclusivity, and transparency in government to establish aligned visions and to achieve sustainable, better qualities of life. Thank you for being here tonight, Virginia.
Thank you.
Our second candidate tonight is Erin Drew. Erin is originally from Central Massachusetts. She has a bachelor's degree in business from Worcester State College and is a U.S. Customs broker licensed by the Department of Homeland Security. Erin spent over 5 years in China and has worked for a variety of businesses, from startups to Fortune 500 companies. Erin and her husband, Chris, are homeowners here in Chelmsford. They have 3 little girls, a 6-year-old and 4-year-old twins. Erin is a member of the Chelmsford Mothers Club and the Neshoba Valley Mothers of Multiples, and has coached soccer and volunteered at a variety of local events and organizations. Erin has also served on the Chelmsford Zoning Board of Appeals since 2018. Erin feels the ZBA has been challenging and rewarding, but she is ready to do more. She believes that her professional background and personal perspective will be an asset to the board. Thank you for being here, Erin. Our third and final candidate tonight is Pat Wojcik. Pat Wojcik is a candidate for re-election to the Chelmsford Select Board. She grew up in Chelmsford and is a graduate of Chelmsford High School. Upon graduation from UMass Amherst, where she participated in the ROTC program, she served in the United States Air Force and later in the Air National Guard. While stationed in Oklahoma, she earned an MBA degree from the University of Central Oklahoma. Pat serves on many local committees, including the Military Community Covenant, which she helped launch in 2009, and the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments. Pat is active in regional organizations that benefit the town. For example, as a member of the Upper Merrimack Valley Medical Reserve Corps, she has helped during the past 2 years at multiple COVID-19 testing and vaccination clinics. Pat brings experience and knowledge to the board and looks forward to serving the residents of Chelmsford for another term on the select board. Thank you for being here, Pat. And that brings us to our questions portion of tonight's Candidates Night. So we'll begin with Virginia and then move to Erin and then Pat and start a rotation from there. For our first question, Virginia, what motivated you to run or run again for the office of Selectman? Please explain to the audience what you identify as the critical action items that you want to address if elected or re-elected for the board.
Thank you. What motivated me to run is when I ran in 2019, I said that I wanted to apply my transferable skills towards leadership for the people in the community. And in that light, I feel like I'm not done yet. There's a lot of initiatives that the board has ongoing, and I want to continue to contribute to those. And specifically where I see my focus in the coming 3 years would be on the quality of life across our diverse community, critical infrastructure, including our sewer and our roadway systems, and making sure that we're doing planning and execution with a culture of collaboration and trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. And Erin?
So as you stated in my intro, I've been on the Zoning Board of Appeals for several years now, and I'm ready to do more with the town. I see a lack of my perspective in town government in Chelmsford in general, being a parent of young children in town. And I think that that perspective could be valuable to the select board. And I think that my kind of varied past and personality could be valuable as well.
Thank you, Erin. And Pat?
Thank you. Well, I've been on the board for a while. Now this is I was first elected in 2007, although I have had a couple of gaps since then. And I think my experience and background does help being on the board to have some institutional knowledge as far as how board business has been conducted in the past and how we can improve it. I agree with some of the comments that have been made, the things that we'll be addressing in the not too distant future. One of the main ones is how to allocate the COVID funds that have been given to Chelmsford for COVID relief. And I think one of the most important things is to improve the buildings. Every building in the town of Chelmsford is going to have the HVAC system upgraded to make it safer for everybody to use. So there's a lot to do in the next 3 years in Chelmsford, and I hope to be here to help do it.
Thank you, Pat. Our second question tonight. If only one seat was open, what makes you the candidate that the voters should select as compared to the other candidates? And we'll start this one with Erin.
As I mentioned, I think I bring a unique perspective to the board. I have the experience on the zoning board that is necessary to kind of lead the town in development, which I think is a hot topic. I think we're at a pivotal point there, and I think they have a perspective as a young family in town that I could participate there. So.
All right. Thank you, Erin. Pat?
I guess that's a tough question. I think that's up for each individual voter to decide how we compare to each other, and I hope the voters do take an opportunity to do that, to explore the differences between each of us. As I mentioned before, one of the things I think I bring is the knowledge of having served on the board, interacted with the town manager for many years, other department heads. And one thing, I think that another thing that I think we have upcoming in the town is staffing issues. In the past month, we've lost, or in the process of losing 3 to 4 members of the DPW and as well as other departments. And I think it's important to be sure that the people that are hired are qualified. Not that I would be involved in the hiring, but we need to create a nice working environment for them so that they don't just turn around and leave, because everybody knows staffing is a very, very big issue right now across the whole country.
Thank you, Pat. And Virginia?
I have been and I remain committed to investing the time necessary to understand the different factors affecting matters that are brought before the board, and to make sure that I feel I'm acting in the best interest of the residents when we do that. I was also the lead board member on establishing the first vision statement for the town, where we say we want to be a livable, diverse community, mindful of our historic past, and also one which enjoys excellence in education and open space. And I think that that type of big picture and detailed thinking is really important to this board position. We need to be able to see the big picture, and we need to be willing to invest the time in understanding the details so that we're making the best decisions for the residents. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Virginia. Our third question tonight. Do you think that it's fair to use tax classification and overcharge commercial and industrial property owners by shifting the tax burden? Please explain your position, starting with Pat.
I've answered this question so many times. I bet everybody in this room can tell me, can repeat the way I would answer it. So I'm going to talk about something else. Today I spoke for probably 20 minutes or longer than that with a small business owner in town. And she's typical of other small businesses in town that are represented by the Chelmsford Business Association. And I give them so much credit. This woman, she's passionate about her customers and about the town in general. In the past 2 years, she said she was tempted to give up several times because things just didn't look like, looked like we were starting to come out of the pandemic, and then there'd be another surge and we'd have to go back. But she's been humbled by the continued support that she has gotten from the residents and her customers in town. And so I'd encourage everybody to patronize the businesses in town, whether it's a restaurant, a coffee shop, your local mechanic or hair salons, gift shops, fitness centers. That's what we need to do to support our businesses in town.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Virginia?
I think there's two main things that we balance with the tax classification. One is our residents who are on fixed income, and the other is our small businesses who give so much to the community and who were, I think, most devastated by the first split. For the larger businesses, I don't think it makes as big of a difference, and frankly, they probably tax the town's infrastructure a little bit more with police and fire and roadways. But what I think is most important, I'll say I'm not in favor of ratcheting it up. I think what is most important, we've brought it down from 1.27 to 1.2, but what the residents and businesses would really benefit most from is predictability and stability. And what I suggested last November is what I still suggest, is that the board needs to determine what direction it wants to go in, whether it wants to go down to a 1-to-1 or maintain some certain residential factor, and come up with the approach to do that so people know and the businesses know. And I feel that the predictability would be the most beneficial to everybody.
Thank you, Virginia. And Erin?
Thank you, Amanda. To answer your question, at a very basic level, no, I don't think it's fair. But I do understand the draw to have split the tax rate originally. I think that the select board has done a good job of walking that back a little bit over the last couple of years, and I think that how I would decide moving forward would depend on a lot of factors. It would depend on the budget overall, and to Virginia's point, I think that the select board needs to keep the big picture in mind. And I think that will feed into the future of the tax classification conversation. So.
All right, great, thank you. And our fourth question tonight. One of your responsibilities as a member of the Board of Selectmen is to review, hire, retain, or terminate the town manager. For the last year, the town manager has been serving without an extended contract. What is your view as to how best resolve this so that both the current town manager and the board can plan better for the future? Please explain your position, starting with Virginia.
Thank you. First, I'll just say, after speaking with council, I don't feel it would be appropriate for any current board member to talk about a future performance review or contract, which has all been in executive discussion. What I will say is I've been the only board member who's brought in an outside facilitator to help us work on our working relationships. In everything that I have done as a board member with matters that have come before the board, I have gone into the details and weighed the different factors and tried to make decisions in terms of what is best serving the residents. And this situation is no different. And the best that I can do is ask for your trust that I'm doing the same thing here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Erin?
Thank you, Amanda. I think the town manager's contract is a sensitive and complicated issue going on in town. I do think that it's something that needs to be resolved one way or the other. I don't have a personal working history with Paul to the extent that that my colleagues here do, but I do think that his contract needs to be determined whether it's going to go forward or not, and that should be something that we should kind of get off of our plates. Frankly, I think that a decision should be made one way or the other. So,
All right, thank you. And Pat?
It's no secret that I strongly support the town manager. I think he should have a contract. I think he's very responsive. I think he works well with the board. Whatever requests are made of him, he follows up. Whenever I talk to him about resident issues, he's very responsive. And if he can't take care of an issue, he will. And if he can't, then he'll explain to me why he can't, and I can get back to a resident that may have brought up an issue to me. So I have no problem with Paul. I would like for him to have more stability here in town, and I would definitely support a contract for him.
Okay, thank you. And our fifth question tonight is the portion where each candidate can ask their two fellow candidates a question. And we'll begin by having Virginia ask a question to Erin.
Thank you. Erin, you're coming into this race with a fresh perspective. How much do you think prior board experience and institutional knowledge are important to being a board member?
thank you, Virginia. I am coming out without prior board experience, but I do have the experience on the Zoning Board of Appeals for the past 3 years. And I do think that that is very important. In my role in the CBA, I have learned a lot, not only about the zoning in town, but about the way that our government functions. I've read through the charters, I've read through years of meeting notes, and seen all kinds of projects that have gone on in the past. I have met people on all the different committees and boards in town. And I think that that is important to have that experience under your belt. I think there are other things that should come along with that as well, but I do think that that's an important piece of the job, of the qualifications.
All right, thank you. And now Erin can ask a question to Pat.
Pat, I've heard a bit about your work with the North Middlesex Council of Government, and I was hoping that you could tell us in brief a little bit about your work there and how you think this has had an impact on Chelmsford.
Well, thanks for that question. It's hard to talk about NEMCOG briefly, quite frankly. They do so much for the town of Chelmsford and the entire region. For those who are unfamiliar with NEMCOG, it's a regional planning agency that serves the city of Lowell, town of Chelmsford, and other surrounding towns. And it, as noted, it is a regional organization, but they're probably one of the most They leverage a little bit of money into a lot of benefit for all the communities. They do contract work or consulting work for the towns, for master plans, for housing production plans. They have a stormwater collaborative. And being on NEMCOG, I'm also a member of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which programs all federal transportation funds in this region. And the town of Chelmsford, you may see a lot of construction. I'm sure everybody sees a lot of construction as you go across town. And most of those funds come from federal transportation funds that are programmed by the MPO. So I'm very glad to be able to serve that way and bring these benefits to Chelmsford.
Awesome, thanks. And now Pat could ask a question to Virginia.
You know, I do not have a question for either candidate.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then that would take us to Virginia asking a question to Pat.
Sure, thank you. Pat, you're one of the most senior members of the board with over a decade of board service. What are you most proud of in terms of how you've applied your experience in the last term?
In the last term, that's kind of limiting it. That's a.
Would you like to open it up to bigger than that? That's fine.
Well, I know one of the things that I'm kind of known for is the Military Community Covenant, which was mentioned in the opening, that helped launched in 2009, which helps military and veteran families in town. I mean, as far as recent things, there's been so much going on. I was glad to work with the board to program the COVID funds, as I mentioned earlier. And I think there's so much infrastructure improvement that needs to be made around town. There's quality of life, the sidewalks, the road improvements. There's so much that can be done, and we can't get it all done at once. But I am proud of the strides that we have made for improvements.
Thank you.
All right, great. And then our final question would be Erin asking Virginia a question.
Virginia, I know this was already kind of brought up, but I wanted to ask you your take on the town manager's contract and whether or not you consider that to be an urgent matter before the select board.
I consider it to be a critical matter before the select board, and I think that it is important that it's not triggered off of an event or a check mark on a box. I think there are things that the board is working through, and it is a critical matter for the board to address, and I think it's going to take time, and we've been taking time in the last year to address that.
All right, great. Thank you, ladies. That takes us to our sixth question tonight. The town has had several large-scale projects or developments proposed over the last 3 years, such as the rezoning of the old university campus off Princeton Street, the proposed project off Riverneck Road on the old Mercury computer site, the Grist Mill 2 project in the town center, the Route 40 development, and the list goes on. Often, these projects can cause property owners, developers, and neighbors to come into conflict about what should or should not be allowed to be built or redeveloped. Currently, the Zoning Board of Appeals does not have the power to grant use variances and special permits. Do you believe that the ZBA should be given the discretion to issue special permits, allowing it to consider alternative uses of particular sites? Please explain your position, starting with Erin.
I'm sorry, do I believe that the
The zoning
select
board
should be given?
The Zoning Board of Appeals should be given the discretion to issue special permits.
I'm not sure that I understand the question. I'm sorry. Special permits for what?
Use variances and special permits. So 20 years ago, the planning board had sued the Zoning Board of Appeals, which had changed this in our town. So the question is, do you believe that the Zoning Board of Appeals should be given the discretion to issue these?
Oh, I didn't know that. More history. I learn something every day in this campaign, let me tell you. The history, I haven't been here for as long as my companions here, so I definitely get lost a little bit. I think that the ZBA's function as it is sufficient, I guess. For projects that you're talking about of that size, I do think that those should lie with the planning board. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Erin. And Pat?
Well, that's a pretty technical question, I'd say.
Thank you. I felt like I was a little over my head there. Thank you.
But I think the way the boards work together now is working fine. Most of the developments that you mentioned are, on the planning board's agendas now, or have been, or will be. I guess the one that is a little bit different is the former UMass West Lowell campus, which just that area was just rezoned at a special town meeting a couple of weeks ago, and that one was handled, I think, very much differently as a kind of an impetus from the developer to have a development agreement with the town, which the select board helped to craft, and I think it's definitely going to benefit the entire town. So that worked very well. As far as the other projects, since some of them are still under the authority of the planning board, I don't want to tell them what to do.
All right, thank you, Pat. And Virginia?
If there was a lawsuit history, I don't think we should be doing anything that will willfully incur more legal fees on the town. But philosophically with the question, I think our planning board has the expertise. I think our current planning board has really done a lot to listen to the residents and try to make the right decisions when it comes to special permits. The planning board is also the place the body that owns the master plan. So they have the bigger picture with respect to the master plan. They have the regulatory expertise, and they're also elected by the people, whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals is an appointed position. And so the residents have the ability to elect or take the planning board out of office if they don't like what's happening. And that's not the case with the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I really feel that that special permitting should stay with the planning board.
All right, thank you, Virginia. And that brings us to our final portion of tonight, where each member will give a closing statement for 1 minute. So we'll start with Virginia.
Thank you to the CBA, everyone here, and the viewers at home for the opportunity to participate this evening. When I ran for Select Board in 2019, I said that I wanted to combine my transferable skills, my love for our community, and my commitment to learn about municipal government toward leadership for the people and the betterment of Chelmsford. With that, I have invested 10 to 20 hours per week during my first term, listening to residents, doing due diligence for matters that come before the board, advancing board initiatives, and serving as the board representative to various committees. I have continued to advocate for deliberate planning, transparency, open discussions, accountability, and valuing different perspectives in our decision-making. My focus going forward in leadership for the people includes priority on the quality of life of our residents across our diverse community, addressing critical infrastructure needs, and planning coupled with collaborative execution and trust. Thank you for your consideration, and I respectfully ask for one of your 2 votes on April 5th.
Thank you, Virginia. And Erin.
So I also wanted to thank the CBA for this forum and for the opportunity to introduce myself to many people in Chelmsford that I haven't already met. I have a lot of respect for our town representatives. You know, these people step up to the plate and they offer their skills, and more importantly, they offer their time and their energy in service to the residents of Chelmsford. And now that I understand what goes into running a campaign, I'm in even more awe of their dedication. In the past few months, I've spoken to many of these representatives and to many of the voters, and I've learned so much, most importantly, what an amazing group of people we have here in town. And while I started off nervous about whether I had the knowledge and experience needed for this job, these conversations have only further reinforced the fact that one of the most important characteristics in a town board member is their willingness and ability to work with others. I am involved in the community, I'm vested, and I'm a collaborator. And if you vote for me on April 5th, I will utilize these people and work with all of them, and I will learn. And together, I think we will get a lot of wonderful things done. So I humbly ask for your support by giving me one of your 2 votes on April 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. And Pat?
Thanks, Amanda. I want to thank the Chelmsford Business Association and thank Chelmsford Telemedia for recording this forum tonight for a later broadcast. I want to thank Amanda for being an excellent moderator and the other candidates for being here for this forum. And I want to thank the voters of Chelmsford for showing their confidence in me in prior elections, and I hope that continues. And I do hope that the voters take time to learn about the candidates before they go vote on April 5th. And a reminder to everybody that precincts have changed across town. So be sure that when you go to vote, you go to the right voting location. And sometime within the next couple weeks or so, you should be getting a postcard from the town clerk that's going to tell you what precinct you're in now and where your voting location is. And I respectfully ask for one of your 2 votes on Election Day on April 5th, and I'll see you at the polls. Thank you.
Thank you. And a huge thanks to all 3 candidates tonight for being here. And just like Pat said, a reminder to everybody to please go out and vote on Tuesday, April 5th.